Hey, welcome to a special episode of Weekend Tech. Let me show my face. Right. So today we're going to look at accessibility issues on my website and also take a look at how we will take a look at two tools. One is Lighthouse and another one is by Microsoft for accessibility. So let's get started. Let me open up my website. So if I open a new one, so this is my website built with Sapper and pretty basic. We have a nav, some projects that I've highlighted from GitHub, a blog, some links to my social media, and a bit of links. All right, and in case you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm also checking that in my other machine here. So I'll probably take a look at the questions at the very end, and we'll see how that goes. And in case there is a power outage, it's going to go down in flames because I don't have any backup. So yeah, let's get started. So what I want to take a look at first is Lighthouse, and I've already run it here. So as you can see, scores are pretty good. And first I want to focus on accessibility. So if you take a look at the issues that we have, one of them is the headers not being in order. So this one, if I open up the inspect element, you can see there is an H1 and immediately after it there's an H6, which is not right. So always follow the same header, the order of the header. So H1 through H6. I'm not sure what I was doing, but let's fix it. So the other one is we're going to take a look at performance later on, but the other one being these projects, they are written with H5s, and again, so this is an H1, so this should have been H2. So that's basically all the accessibility issues that I have. The issues that are the audits that passed are these. So things like your HTML should have a language, which is, for me, it's EN, and alt attribute should be present on images. So things like these images, they should have an alt tag, which I have done. Those are all basic checks that you can do. And buttons should also have accessible name, because sometimes people use, I think they're called fabs. So those floating action buttons, they just have an icon. So what you should do is put an accessible name. So if somebody is using a screen reader, they can see what the button does, or they can at least hear it with their screen readers. So yeah, so let's fix it. I have it. Let me start the local server here. So the way I'm doing this, making this website is I have a .NET backend, which serves this data from two sources. One is GitHub, and the other one is a couple of local CSV files. And all the blogs that I've written, they're put in Markdown, and this is simply read as a blob and then sent to the front end Sapper app. So if I start the front end, this is PNPM. I'm using PNPM, but you can use NPM or yarn or whatever. So let's wait for that to start. And the good thing about Sapper is it's, as you saw, the performance rating is pretty all right. There are a few issues that I'll go over, but things like server and server-side rendering, all of that is there. So that's why we're getting a relatively high score. So now let's open the local localhost 3000 where the Sapper app is running, and this is querying the .NET backend to get all its data. So the first or the only issue that we're trying to solve right now is the header part. So if you look at the Lighthouse issue, it does tell you that the headers are not in order, and if you, I think, click it, okay, it doesn't even navigate to the exact location where it's happening. But there's a different extension by Microsoft which is called Accessibility Insights for Web, and that has a more comprehensive set of guidelines that you can follow. So if I open up assessment, and let me put that on the side, so I can start a new assessment, and there are a couple of automated checks that you can do for accessibility. So I don't have very complex markup, so this is why all of this is passing. But the one that we are interested in is headings. And if we go to the heading function and turn on the visual helper, it will give us a visual representation of what the issues are. So as you can see, it clearly doesn't make sense to put H6 after an H1 and then we have an H3. That's weird. Also, this H5 will fix it. But as you can see, this gives you a very easy way to visually see what's happening in your page. So that's one. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was keyboard navigation on your websites. So I'm sure you've done this on a couple of websites. So what you can do is anywhere on a page, if you start hitting the tab key, you can see that the navigation goes through the anchor points on the page. So you can also check if somebody who's using only a keyboard has a good experience. And to check that, there's the keyboard section. Keyboard section here. And if I go to keyboard navigation and turn on the visual helper, now if I start using the tab key, you can see this is where I began, the brand logo, I guess. And then I can go through, I'm hitting tab by the way, to navigate through the nav elements. Then it goes to the blog, which is a link, and then to the GitHub projects. So this you can use to check if the experience on when you're using just a keyboard is good or not. And obviously you can see there's a lot of other things that you can do, but these are at least a few basic things that you should take care of. So let's try to fix the header issues and see how our score improves. So before doing that, let's and this is the local server. The Lighthouse report that I showed you was on my custom domain. Now let's run a report just before changing any code on the local server to see how different is it. And obviously you'll see the performance score being relatively less because we're not bundling when we're running a dev server. So we'll wait for that to finish. Give it a go, and yeah, it will take a lot of time because the JavaScript is not bundled. But we'll wait for that to finish, and I think by that time we can start the VS Code instance. So here, and if you see the environment file, it's just the URL to my backend. And yeah, if you want to see how I'm using environment variables, you can check a video. I think it's the first Weekend Tech video about CLI config, where I set up all these tools to help your CLI experience. But yeah, so the app is opening, and it's the surprised to see a high score. That's weird, but fine, we'll take it. So I was expecting this is what I wanted to see. So we should be using HTTP. All of that is because we're running locally and it's on HTTP. There was an error about using HTTPS as well. It's not showing up here, but yeah, that's fine. We'll come back to these issues at the very end. For now, let's go back to the code and see what we can improve. So the first one was the what's new section, which is this. Let me close the Lighthouse. This one, which is in the what's new section. And the way to give you a very basic understanding of Sapper is you have your routes, and this file structure defines the where your app is. So at the very start of it, you have layout that just gives you a basic layout of each of your pages. So mine has a nav bar and a slot to render each of the pages. And the home page is index, and there are other pages as well. So the blog is this, the show socials, this links. So if we go to our index page, this is where we had the what's new section. And if we take a look at the issue, it was this latest blog that was an H6. Ideally it should be H2, but I don't even think that this should be a header anymore. So what I'll rather do is replace this with a span. So I'll make this a span, and let's see how that changes things. So looks all right, but I think we can do a little bit better on the styling part. So let's add a class here, and this is the latest blog header, and we'll just style that with CSS. So we'll add a bit of weight to the font and also reduce the font size. I think there's an article about how large your font should be, and at the very minimum there should be 12 pixels. But here I'm cheating a little bit, and because it looks better as this is 8 pixel, I'm assuming. So now let's see what's changed. This looks basically like what we had before, but semantically this is more accurate because this is not a header anymore. So that's one thing that I wanted to change. So we can close this. The other one was, oh, it was in the same file. The other one is the header on this one, the blog. Oops. So that should have been an H2 rather than an H3. So I'll change that as well. So that is fairly straightforward. Just change the header, and if we wanted, we could change the styling on this, but I'm not going to. So that's the first part done. So we can close that. The next part was the highlights. So the way this page, section works, and ignore the typings, is I'm looping through a couple of projects that I'm getting from the backend, which is getting it from github.com, a couple of specified projects that I want to highlight. So here what I want to change is this should be an H2. And these are custom components, which is also a different video in Weekend Tech. It's called Propful Kit, which is web component / a Svelte web component kit, which is in work in progress. So if you want, you can check that video out. But so now we've changed that to an H2, and as you can see, this looks really weird. So what we can do is change the styling a little bit. It's the title, and inside the title there's an H2. Here we can set the font size to, I think 1.5 em should be good enough. So that also looks like what we had before, but semantically correct. So that's the accessibility fixes that I wanted to do. Let's run Lighthouse once more and see if those have changed. And we'll take a look at some other goof ups that I've done. Thanks, Josh. Oh yeah, and if you have any questions, do leave them out in the comments. I'll check them at the very end. So still waiting for Lighthouse to finish, and since that's going to take a while, Lighthouse can also be run as a CI action in GitHub Actions or whatever CI platform you're using. So you can set a budget, and if that budget is exceeded in some way, like the size of the entire site is larger, your CI will fail. So you can do that as well. It's available as an npm package or a GitHub action, whichever you're using. So this is taking a lot of time. But I can show you on the main website. So the issue is this image. This is being displayed as 220 pixel by 220. But if I look at the original image, it's 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels. I don't know what I was thinking. But what we should have done is either do some sort of a compression and keep the height and width the same, or what we could have done is resize that image. So let's I'll show you how to resize this image through the command line, because even I learned it pretty recently. So here, if I do let's download that image, and currently if you see oops, currently this image is 1.6 megabytes, which is really large for just showing a simple profile image. What you can do is we can convert it and resize it to something that's being shown in the page as. So it's 220 by 220. And now if I take a look, this is 20 kilobytes, which is, we've saved almost what, 1.4 megabytes. So that's one thing I should have done. And not sure why Lighthouse didn't pick that up, but always make sure that the image that you're serving is relatively smaller. And also there are new ways to serve images other than JPEGs and PNGs. So you can take a look at Google Chrome's or Google Web Developers articles. They've described them fairly well. So that was one other issue that I wanted to show. The other one was, and yeah, the thing is, I'll never get 100 in my Lighthouse score, but I think somewhere it did give me 100, which is weird. Is because I'm serving this website through GitHub Pages, which has a 10-minute of time to live, and I can't change that because that's it's GitHub Pages that's doing that. So I'm going to have to live with that, but should be fine because our entire page, entire website itself is around 3 megabytes. And now that we have compressed, resized that image, it's a lot smaller. So I think I can live with that. So that's one thing I can't fix, but you should be aware that if you're not making regular updates to your website, make sure that your time to live is relatively longer. And since this is Sapper, it also has a service worker, and you can, if you see, you can install this as an app. So if I hit install, this will get installed as a regular app, and you can use it offline as well. So right, the other thing that I wanted to see, I wanted to show, was something in the PWS section here. Oh, I'm going to have to run the Lighthouse again. Oh, but we can use this one. So here, if you see, does not redirect HTTP, that's fine. When you're serving to GitHub Pages, it's anyway HTTPS enabled, so you don't have to worry about that. This is something I came across recently, and it is, if you look at the Maskable icons page. So if you look at this image, this icon, not sure if it's visible, but what it is basically my Animoji, not sure what it's called. On iOS, there's the emoji that you can create for your face. And currently what's happening is, and yeah, I have an image to show that actually. So if I open the Maskable icons. So currently if I open my website on Android, and this is specifically for Android, iOS doesn't have this issue. So what's happening is I have my icon as a PNG file, and this white part is transparent in my icon. But on Android, since the icons are circular, what happens is it's trying to fit the entire image in the icon, which doesn't really look good. And that's why that maskable icon issue is in my Lighthouse report. So to fix that, we'll see how to fix that. But the if you turn on maskable icons, what happens is it tries to fill the entire icon to the entire circle, and that looks much better. And the reason iOS doesn't have this issue is because iOS icons are anyway square and they just have rounded corners. So this is an Android thing. But to fix that, what you can do is, since you have a manifest JSON where you've defined your icons, all you have to do is add, for each of the icons that you want to be masked, you can say that the purpose is any and maskable. So that will allow you to kind of say that hey, you can fill this icon to the entire space available and it's going to look fine. So those are the things that I wanted to cover. And if I go back to the website, so these are a few other examples. This is see, looks very weird, but if you turn on maskable icons, it fills the entire circle. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not sure how long this video has been, probably 20 minutes. So yeah, if you don't see any questions at the moment, but if you have, you can feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or on Instagram, and on my website there's a socials page where I've put all the links. And yeah, so this was my first ever live stream, and hopefully you learned something new. So all right, see you in the next one.